And welcome to penpodcast.com with your co-host Nico Penguin of Pen for Hire NYC. Today we are joined by best-selling author Jodi Burnett. Jodi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Nico. I've really been looking forward to it.
And I was, as mentioning previously, I was looking at your website, and your website is just so cool. Like, oh my goodness, like everything about it is so cool. The colors, the way that when you scroll, things change. The colors pop out of all your books. Primarily, the this one with the purple coloring, Justice, just brought it to my attention. Like, oh, now I know Jodi Burnett's next book is a Justice in
Thank
the
you.
10 Star series. Like, so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I have a great web designer. It's not me.
And then I also was looking at like on the blog how you have, fiction, creativity, interviews, TV, film. Like you have interest from everywhere.
I do. I'm really excited to talk about primarily canines and police canines. I love what they do. I love military dogs, and so two of my three series are all based on they're canine thrillers. Then I'm starting a new venture in creativity, so I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to actually building a side business, helping all creatives nurture their creativity and
Hmm.
figuring out how to do that. And then the other one in TV and film, there's really nothing in there yet because I haven't done anything yet, but I'm hoping to write a screenplay from my FBI series first.
Oh, that is so cool. And as mentioned, that's multifaceted. So you write in a lot of different genres, but this one in particular, your Justice one, I was looking at it. It's ranked number one in all the categories. So congratulations,
Thank you.
because I know that is extremely difficult to do, and you're number one. So how did somebody such as yourself get to that kind of place where you're essentially dominating the Amazon markets? How did you even do that?
Well, I think it has to do with the particular niche that I'm in. So it's really dominating the niche. It's not the whole Amazon store necessarily. So
Mm.
I think I have some really fantastic readers that are loyal and they love to get the next book and they sign up ahead of time for pre-orders and it's just a big blast every time I release a book. So it's a lot of fun. So I've had fantastic readers is really what it is.
Man, and when you have fantastic readers, it's because they have such a passion for you. So where do you get the passion to write and create these stories for them?
Well, I've been creative my whole life and have a very vivid imagination. When I was little, I lived in my imagination, my
Mhm.
imaginary friends, and then as you get older, that sort of it's less socially accessible, to play make believe.
Acceptable. Yeah, yeah, I know, right? You have to become an author or
You have to
something.
grow up and stuff. So,
No, we
so
don't
and
want
then
that.
yeah, I used to tell my kids stories and that kind of thing, but I didn't actually start writing until I have four kids and they all moved away
Mm.
from home, and then I started writing. I was sad when they moved, and my husband thought it would be a good idea for me to write a book about my experience of the empty nest syndrome, and I wrote a book, but I didn't write it about that. So I wrote a
Mhm.
fiction and just kind of fell in love with writing from there, and it's a great place for my imagination to play. So that's where it comes from.
Wow, that's actually so cool that you're literally taking what you went through and channeling that through your books. And did you ever actually publish that channeled energy, or did you alter the story so much that it was just your kind of little spark of imagination?
I did. I altered the book. My first book, it's actually not even for sale right now. I took it down because it needs to be sort of rewritten. First books are always a challenge.
Yeah.
But it was about a woman who her children had moved away in her struggle. But then I took off from there. The whole story is completely different. And there's an adventure and some things going on and just relational kind of stuff. It's more women's fiction. So it doesn't really
Hmm.
fit with my genres now. But yeah, so that was that book. And then I just fell in love with writing and thought, well, what do I write next? I guess I'll write what I know. And I had a business for about, I don't know, about 7 years called Horses Healing Hearts, where I
Hmm.
did equine therapy with at risk kids in the Denver area. and you take these kids, a lot of them were foster care kids, and we'd take them out, to the arena, and their social
Hmm.
worker would do therapy with them, but in the context of working with horses. And it's just a phenomenal work. So Run for the Hills is the first book in this Flint River series. It's not a canine series. It's about a Montana family, and there's three brothers, and the three brothers, each brother has a book story of his own. But the first book has to do with that equine therapy. And so then I just kept falling in love with writing, and I can't stop now.
No, that's actually pretty cool. And all the books are on the website, jodi-burnett.com. And oh my goodness, these are really good covers.
Thank
Like
you.
in the Flint River series, like these are really good. The red is popping out like crazy, and the hidden in the hills, like it just woo, just makes me like want to pick it up and read it right away. Like why is there a cave? Why are they underground? Why is there a pistol there? All these questions, like, ooh, definitely mysterious. Now,
Awesome.
when you decided to write, what enabled you to create mystery? Because I personally think that mystery is so hard to write because you have to pretty much like get people to think critically, and not too much, not too hard, but you're wanting to make them think in a specific way. Like, how did you ever decide, like, you know what, I want to actually do that?
Oh, gosh, I don't know the answer to that. I think that the way I write, I'm very plot driven, and I have a great outline, like a 10-page outline for a
Mhm.
book. And I really try to work through some of the mystery and, the red herrings and all of that kind of stuff, and try to, how will I lead the reader away from what the truth is, in a believable fashion. It's a fun puzzle for me. So I guess that's just why I go that way. It's a lot of fun.
So when everybody else is doing Sudoku and whatnot,
This
you're
is my
just like,
Sudoku.
you're like, okay, let me create a little challenging puzzle for my readers and whatnot.
Exactly.
Oh, that is so fun. Oh, that's like playing with words on another level. That's actually pretty cool. And for you to be able to do that, primarily, I would like to know, how long have you been writing like that with that kind of mindset?
With that mindset, I published Run for the Hills in 2019. So all of the books from there on have been since then. So it's been a roller coaster ride. I publish about once every 4 months.
Oh, that's actually so cool. So it's like you're very experienced. You're number one currently, in a couple of categories. So that makes me want to ask this question. So, for to do that, how do you go about getting into your characters? Because character development has to be something key. Do you know people and then you just write from their perspective, or do you completely start from scratch and create people from zero?
I I start from scratch, and I just
Oh wow.
sit back and imagine the people. I do have, like some character development sheets that I fill out, a lot of
Hmm.
which the information will never actually make it into the book. You gather information about, their background, or, their culture, where they came from, and all of that creates a picture in my mind, and then I go from there. And in the Tin Star series, which is my current series I'm writing in, it
Hmm.
is one protagonist throughout. So it's kind of fun to stick with one character and really develop her. So and her family and her love interest and all of that. They're all the same people. So that's been a challenge in a different way, because to keep it fresh and to keep these characters growing and all of that kind of thing is a little bit challenging, but it's also fun to really get to know them personally. They're like friends.
Do you have a hard time differentiating between what you want versus what the character wants?
Sometimes my character's a little more sassy than I expect her to be. But I usually let her run with it if it doesn't get out of character. But for the most part, I don't have that problem, because I think because I'm so outline driven, that I
Hmm.
know where I'm going. It's not, a lot of writers, they're called pantsers, and they just sort of write off the cuff,
Right,
and
right.
so they can get themselves into these situations where their character go one way that they weren't expecting. And
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
doesn't tend to happen to me, since I use an outline pretty heavily.
Okay, so your characters pretty much have a structured format that you adhere to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Now, do you have any issues where you would like for them to kind of deviate, or do you want them to stay and maintain their set composure or their set mindsets in every situation.
I think I'm open to letting them change and grow, especially in dialogue. As I sort of have we have to start at point A and we have to end at point B, but what
Hmm.
happens between there is it's that's the creative part. That's what happens on the page, and it's playtime. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. Now, when you go about writing, do you ever stumble upon any like writer's block?
So that's actually what my nonfiction is going to be about eventually, about creativity. I don't have writer's block, but I think
Ooh,
that I have.
lucky.
Well, I think that the reason I don't is because I think of it differently. So I
Mm,
don't know that we're necessarily blocked creatively as much as we get dried out and empty.
mm,
You know, there's an old saying, it's you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think that's what happens more, that we just dry up and we don't take the time to nurture our imagination and our playfulness. And we forget, especially if you turn your creative job, you know, it becomes a job,
mhm.
then, you know, it's not as much fun and we forget that it should be play. And so if we can get back to that place where it's play, then, you know, then you don't really have a block. My mindset is that you can do that by doing something else creative that's not what your work is. Like maybe you go paint or you go
Right,
dance or you
right,
whatever. I mean, a million
right.
things. But if you fill yourself back up, you'll have more to give. So that's just my opinion, though. I'm sure
No,
people.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100% because I'm one of those firm believers that you have the capacity to always be doing something, whether it's doing something that you have a passion for and you're like, this is my goal to like write 1,000 words, but at like 500 words, it's like, I can't write anymore. It's like instead of being stuck there, like just go do something else. Like go cook, go clean, crochet,
Mhm.
go walk around, enjoy nature, and then when you come back, you might end up feeling like, wow, you know what? I can crank out another 700 words.
Exactly. I think that one of the reasons we don't want to try new things is we're afraid that we won't be good at it. We're so used to being
Mm,
competent and great at our main focus. But when we were kids, we didn't care if we were good at it or not. We just
right.
tried and it was fun. And I think we need to recapture that and allow ourselves to be really bad at something and just
Hmm.
play and have fun with it. So that's kind of where I'm going with it.
And then what do you use as motivation in order to keep yourself going?
I'm competitive with myself, so and I'm very disciplined. So I have my word count that I want to
Hmm.
hit each day. You know I have a certain period of time that I work before I have a break, and so I'm pretty regimented that way,
Hmm.
and it works for me. Also, deadlines. I put up pre-orders with the book. Whatever book I just published, there's a
Right, right,
pre-order in you know, for the next book,
right,
and
right.
so I have a deadline. I have to hit it, and so that's pretty motivating.
Yeah, that's tough. So you don't need like an accountability partner or anything like that.
Well, I do have an accountability partner. I have
No,
a
on top of
great
that.
yeah, I do. I have a great friend
Oh,
and
that's cool.
mentor, and she's amazing. She's just super organized and very
Hmm.
calm and brilliant. Her name is Corinne O'Flynn. She's also an author, so I'll give her a
Shout out.
little shout.
Yep,
But
yep.
yeah, she's fantastic. And you know, every day and the very first thing in the morning, we tell each other what our top three things we want to accomplish that day are, and what does done look like, and then we
Hmm.
kind of make sure that we get there by the end of the day. So it's good.
Wow, that's actually a pretty effective method.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. Now, do you also have a good relationship with your editors as well?
Yes, I have, and I have a tremendous group of beta readers, which are my front line of defense. They are fantastic, and
Do you ever feel bad
that's. Do I feel bad?
when they give you some not good feedback?
No, no, I appreciate all their feedback because that just makes the story that much better. And you used to. I think in the beginning you're a little unsure and you're a little more tender.
Hmm.
Anymore, I'm like, please, you know, punch me if you need to. I need to know this stuff. And we've built trust over time that they know they can actually tell me anything and I'm fine. You know, I just want to make the product better. So so they're fantastic. And then I have a great ARC team, which is an advanced reader team.
Hmm.
They also have, you know, it's gone through editing, it's gone through everything, and now it's just ready to publish. And I'll get an email, hey, there's this typo on page 67 or whatever. That's fantastic because I
Right.
don't care how many people look at your book, a typo will get through. It just happens. So it's
For
really
some reason, yeah.
yeah. So it's great when people feel like they can email me and let me know.
Man, that's actually pretty cool to be able to have a lot of people that are into you, and it's got to be so many multifacets, just like you have so many different interests. There's so many different people from, I believe, all walks of life that
Hmm.
are reviewing and assisting you. And you mentioned that you have a specific word count. So do you have like a specific schedule that you adhere to in order to meet that?
I do. Well, my goal is a minimum of 2,000 words a day. I usually get more than that, but that way I make sure I won't go to sleep if I don't have that 2,000. So I've got to got to punch it out, and that keeps me on schedule for my publishing schedule.
Do you need to get into like a specific mood, or do you need like a specific like a set of things to do, like coffee, mug, then
Lots
to
and lots
bed?
of coffee. No, I do a sort of morning mindset, and I kind of
Oh.
sit back and, kind of think about my day and think
Hmm.
about what I want to accomplish, think about who I want to be, who I want to show up as when I'm writing or when I'm doing business or if I have a meeting or something like that. So I take some time to kind of think through my day. I'm practicing, I'm not great at this, but I'm practicing not looking at my email or social media before I start writing. When I can do that, my writing is fresher, I think. It's easier. I'm not distracted. So I'm working on that though. That's a work in progress.
So when you're trying to deviate, you're trying to essentially like get into the zone, get into
Hmm.
some deep work, so that way, without any distractions, you can complete either 2,000 words, or it gets much easier for you to enable to all have that creativity, whether it's just thinking about it or actually getting it through.
Yeah, both. I put myself, if I'm working on a novel, I'll put myself in the scene, and I just really picture it, and sort of like a camera just panning around in the scene, seeing
Oh.
who's there, what's going on, what's the mood, what's the weather, all of that kind of stuff. And then if I'm there, then I can start writing and just write. It just flows like make believe.
And do you change character on a daily basis, or like do you have like a set week, like this week I'm gonna be thinking about this particular scene, next week this particular scene, or as you complete it, it just everything gets done as you go?
Yeah, I'm pretty linear along with my outline. So
Oh,
if I
okay.
end a scene, I'm ready to go ahead and start that next scene, and it might be a subplot scene with different characters, and all of it's fine because it sort of feels like it flows to me.
Hmm. And what's the most fun that you have when you create your books?
Oh, my most fun is when I know that I'm onto a great subterfuge that I know that I'm gonna pull my reader in one direction and I'm actually going in a different direction, and it just gets very exciting. That is very exciting for me.
Now, what do you think is the most satisfying part about when you create a character to life?
I think the most satisfying thing is when readers respond, and they respond to your readers like they're real people.
Ooh.
That is, it's fantastic. And I have a funny story. It was my very first in Run for the Hills. The main character, her name is Jocelyn,
Hmm.
and I write her as a young woman. She's got a long, straw colored braid. Well, I did a little weird video kind of trailer. I shouldn't say weird. It's kind of cool. A video trailer for that series. And my daughter called me up and she's like, Mom, I really like that trailer, but Jocelyn's not blonde. And I was like, well, yeah, that's how I wrote her. But it wasn't how she had her in her mind. And
Mm.
she had developed this whole other
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
And it's what I love. So this is what I think about art. And I think this all art, but it's especially true maybe in writing.
Right.
But art is only completed when the viewer or the reader takes the other half. Like the creator creates, but the
Yes.
viewer takes the other half, and whatever they do with that, however they interpret it,
Yes.
that's the completion of the art. And so it's so satisfying. It's thrilling, really.
Man, oh, that's one of my best parts too. Whenever somebody lets you know that, that's so satisfactory. It just makes you want to be like, wow, I can't believe I got you to just have that initial spark of creativity. And then you could tell me, like, no, my character wouldn't do that. Because then now you have to argue about that either for the next upcoming book. Like, am I going to dye her hair?
Good
Like,
point.
do I have to like add that to the book and be like, in the first couple of pages, like she decided to get a, a hair treatment, turns her
Right?
hair out, like. just
Well,
because
and
she's channeling that.
the fun part is that all your readers picture your characters differently than you do. They
Hmm.
sound differently than they do in your head. And I know that's true because I have audiobooks and my audio narrators interpret my writing differently than I write it. So that's always interesting too. You're, discussing it with your narrator, voices and inflections and things, and trying to come to a meeting of the minds.
Hmm. Now, when you do have your audiobooks being produced, do you ever give them like certain heads ups, like, hey, this character is gonna think like this in this situation, or please use like this kind of mannerisms, or do you just try to let them understand how the story goes?
If there is any kind of accent, I make sure that my narrator knows that. I have the dog commands are all in Czech, so they have to have I send a little, PDF on what the word sounds like, how it's pronounced, because
Right,
otherwise,
right.
that kind of thing. Sometimes I'll just let them they'll do a practice audio, clip and send it to me,
Hmm.
and I'll say, oh gosh, they're like the lady I have doing my Tin Star series right now is fantastic. She reads the way that with the tempo and rhythm that I write, and so
Hmm.
it sounds like it does in my head. She's just fantastic. But the other day she sent me one of the marshals, and I had to tell her, oh, that particular marshal, he's kind of dark and mysterious, so he needs a lower steady voice, but the voice she used could go for a different marshal. So, and that kind of thing, that back and forth is really common, so it's a lot of fun.
Oh man, do you think that it allows you to almost double down on certain character, ways of looking, sounding, acting, and being? Because sometimes they'll ask you a question and hmm, what would they sound like in this situation?
Yeah, I think that when you write a book, you're sure how your characters sound. The hard part is letting it go and letting someone else interpret it. So it
Ooh.
doesn't have to be exact. In fact, there's no way it can be exact. So you have
Hmm.
to kind of hold it with an open hand, and you're sort of a director in a way, but you
Yeah.
have to let the artist develop the character a little bit for themselves too.
Oh, that is so that. Oh, you explained it in such a really concise way. Like, oh, because when you have that conversation and they're getting it, I think that is one of the like happiest things to do is when somebody understands because now they're playing a role. It's
Right.
like almost like a drama, but
Mhm.
in a verbal way where somebody else is going to have that capacity to actually hear that and think for themselves in that moment, like, wow, now it's like a verbal story being told. And now before they had to read it, now they can just close their eyes and listen to it happen.
Yeah, it's fun.
Now, I also saw that you have a lot of different material as well on the website, not just the Tin Star series. Like I said, like you have such an amazing website. Again, shout out to whoever developed it. You also have FBI Canine series, and I also do see here that you also have a box set already for the Flint River series as well. So that way, anybody that just wants to get everything all in one shoot has that opportunity there as well.
In fact, in that box set, there's a fourth book. That book, it's a Christmas mystery kind of story.
Hmm.
And that book, the Christmas mystery, and a coordinating cookbook for that series, because it was just fun, and then a prologue to my FBI series. I have 3 free books on my website. If anybody's interested to see what my style is, you can just go to the website, click on those, and they're free. So that's kind of fun. But in the box set, that book is included. You can't purchase it anywhere. So it's kind of fun to be able to offer it in the box set.
Well, look at that. And I did want to ask a few more questions because you have so many books, and I also wanted to ask, like, even though I asked for your motivation, what also enables you to just not give up? Because you have, I believe, like 11 books already. And
It's more that I just can't stop. It's not a the stories just keep running in my head. And that's been true for my whole life. a lot of people struggle with going to sleep at night and they have their
Hmm.
to-do
Hmm.
list and all that kind of thing. I've never been that person. I just tell myself a story, and it's like telling yourself a bedtime story.
Hmm.
You can be anybody you want, go anywhere you want, and do anything you
Hmm.
want to, and then you fall asleep. I don't really know why you'd want to go through a to-do list when you can have a story.
Now, do you have any issues whenever you're trying to end a story, or like you're trying to like, okay, I think this is enough, but your mind is still like, oh, there's a little bit more that you want to cram in. Like, how do you know when the story is done? Because you have a series, so I know at certain points you were like, okay, I need to just continue this later. So at what point do you realize like this is it for this book and I need to just do another book?
Well, my biggest struggle actually is getting enough words. I tend to
Mm-hmm.
write very concisely. So that's a different challenge. A lot of authors have to cut words. I'm always like,
Hmm.
I can't cut any words. I need the word count. But what happens is in a mystery or a thriller, that story, that particular story, it has its beginning, middle, end in your novel. The personal drama and the kind of, the relationships between characters, that is a series long arc. So that part continues on, but I know I'm done when the mystery is solved or when they've caught the bad guy or whatever. That's the end. And then I like to come up with a little bit of a cliffhanger that isn't mystery oriented. Like that has to come to a conclusion, but a
Hmm.
little bit in the personal area or something, like something pulls you into the next book. So that's kind of my style.
Now, what is your personal favorite part of the writing process?
Strangely, my favorite part is the first, when I go over the rough draft for the first time and begin to craft it, because I just, blob it out on a rough draft, get all the story down that I can.
Hmm.
Dialogue comes pretty easily for me, but I love to go back and really shape it, shape the sentences, really try to get the mood, really put the scenery and the visceral emotions and all that, really
Hmm.
plug those things in. That's really fun for me.
Now, other than yourself, of course, who are your top three favorite mystery writers?
Oh, well, I like spy thrillers and political thrillers. I don't write them, but I love them. So I've been a lifelong fan of Robert Ludlum, who's passed away. Vince Flynn also passed away, but I love him too. And Brad Thor. Those are my top three go-to guys that I love to read.
Man, you didn't even hesitate. You already knew.
I know who they are.
You knew. Most people struggle. Oh, it's too many. I was like, no, no, no. Uh, Now, if you had a chance to give yourself, if you had like a little time machine, 10-minute conversation with 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be that 10-minute advice that you would give yourself?
Don't worry about whoever the mysterious they are that you think are gonna judge you, that you think you're not good enough for, that you're afraid of their opinion. Just they don't even exist, and who cares? Push publish, do it. Just go for it. Go for whatever you want to do, and don't be afraid about what other people think. It's your life. It's your one life. Go live it.
Wow, powerful, powerful words. That's amazing advice right there, Jody. Thank you so much for coming onto the Pen Podcast. Where can people find more of you? Your website, any social media, etc.
Everywhere that you can find me is on my website, so it's best to go there, which is, I think you said before, it's JODI dash Burnett, BURNETT.com, and everything's on there. The free books, all my social links, everything. So you can find me on Amazon. My books are all on Amazon.
Yeah, definitely check her out, guys. She's number one for a reason. Not only is she fun and enjoyable, those books are amazing, just like her website. Definitely check it out. My name is Nico Penguin. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for everyone tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please let us know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Other than that, have a great rest of your night then.
Thank you, Nico.